Welcome to today's Instagram Live entitled Multi-Orgasmic Aging, where I'll be joined by Cordelia Gaffar, who is a best-selling author, speaker, and host of Free to Show. She also helps empower women of faith to normalize great sex to help them become multi-orgasmic. She's written several books and she's developed some programs to help women embrace embrace themselves, embrace their sensuality, and experience climax with their partner. So I'll be speaking to Cordelia Gaffar, who is a author, a podcaster, and host of Free to Show. She empowers women of faith to experience life through pleasure and possibility, and she's also normalizes great sex, resulting in being multi-orgasmic. So that is the I'm just waiting for Cordelia to join us. Just bear with me for one moment, please, whilst I'll add her. Hopefully, we won't have any issues. Multi-orgasmic, and she empowers women, black women, and women of faith. Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. How are you? I was good. I was praying because after last week I had some technical issues. I was just wondering. I was like, hopefully, we won't have any issues.
I'm really
today, so
well.
Alhamdulillah. Joined us. How are you? Oh, great. Usually what I like to do before kicking off the discussion, ask the guest to give a quick elevator pitch. So do you mind
absolutely.
introducing
Thank you
yourself and the work that you do?
So I am Cordelia Gaffar, the ultimate joy goddess. I help women to normalize great sex, resulting in them being multi-orgasmic. And I specifically love to work with women of faith so that they can experience life through pleasure and possibility. I've written 8 books, and I'd say Detach Love, my most recent one, was the first one published in the sexuality category, because I do talk about the Black divine feminine in there. I'm also the host of the Free to Be show, which I've had for like almost 9 years. And I've won 2 awards, one in London and one in the United States. I've won like multiple awards about a lot of things, and I'm really excited also because I've been nominated for Health Thought Leader, and I'll be in Dubai this coming spring. And you're going to get into this in a little bit, but my last accolade that I'm super proud of is that I'm a mother of 6 children and I homeschooled them all, mashallah.
Mashallah. Lovely.
I'm based
And
in the United
obviously,
States,
I'm
yes.
assuming you're based in the US? United States. And what inspired you to do the work that you're doing, especially around intimacy and sexuality,
interesting.
and
As
for
I
women
think
of faith
back,
in particular?
it really began when so I had 4 of my children at home. So studying the physiology of birth really was where it began, my interest more in sexuality. And because, you know, the way a baby goes in is pretty much the same way the baby comes out. And I've experienced that actual enlightenment, you know, like that precipice between worlds as the baby, you know, as I'm actually delivering my baby. So with my 5th child, I started getting into belly dancing. And so that, you know, really brought me more into the body wisdom. And so I thought, where did belly dancing come from? And so I started really looking into all the different forms of dance that, you know, where we use our movement. So that led me to, of course, Africa, Asia. Well, I mean, belly dancing started in Africa, right? But just moving around the continent to the different peoples, and then even, you know, looking at my own heritage. So I'm part, you know, Native American as well. So looking at the dances that we did here as well. And then on a more personal level, just recently, right, in recent years, post-divorce, I wanted to resolve and heal whatever I had left, you know, unhealed so that inshallah, you know, when I'm ready, I'll have a healthy marriage next time. So I really wanted to heal any wounds I had around sexuality, and I started studying tantra and Kundalini energy, and I actually went to school for that a little bit, you know. But you know what? I have to say this. It all began because I was like, well, as a Muslim, I want to start with my own tradition. So I got your book, Taste of Honey. And I was actually looking for where I can learn this under the Islamic tradition. And that's how I ended up in Tantra school, because we don't have anything until now.
Until now, yes, until now, mashallah. So, what is, I've heard of Kundalini and
It's
Kundalini. Is it Kundalini or Kundalina?
Kundalini. Kundalini. Yeah. I'm wondering, yeah, sure. Is my sound good for you? Is it? Okay, okay. I just wanted to make
It's
sure.
perfect. Your sound is perfect.
So it's really our life force energy. And the interesting thing about it, for me, I connect dots, right? So in my previous career, I was an accountant. Oh, similar to you, right? So I like to see the equations. And
Yeah.
so Kundalini energy actually flows in the body in a figure eight. And that is one of the most grounding energies, or the most grounding movements, when you're belly dancing, right? You'll often see the body, the lower body moves into a figure eight, and the upper body and it moves into a figure eight. So if we connect the dots with actual Kundalini energy, we can use this as like keeping our vibration up to the frequency, so that we actually meet and manifest what's meant for us, right? So now I'm connecting it to another dot. So as a Muslim, right, we would want to keep our energy and our presence and our focus on Allah, right? And work in harmony with what it is that He has prescribed for us. And so if you flow in life as if it is a series of energy, or of experiments, right? Then everything gives you life. There's nothing that can actually make you feel bad. So
Thank you for that. And you said you've written 8 books. Can you tell us a little bit about the? Is Detach
yes,
Love?
one of
Is
my
that your
best-selling books.
best-selling
Yeah.
book? Can you tell us a little bit about one of your best? Can you tell us a little bit about Detach Love and what that involves? Because you mentioned that was one of the books that is
Mm-hmm.
related to
I mean,
intimacy and
this is where I
sensuality.
like tippy toed into talking about it a little bit. The next book is really going to talk about intimacy, but I would say the last few chapters. So the full title is Detached Love, Transforming Your Heart so that you can transform your mind. And so the idea is, I wrote this when I was going through a period of time where I had to detach from romantically, if you will, loving my spouse, right? And but I still wanted to love him with with the pure love, right? So I unconditionally loved him. And on the inside, I transformed my heart towards all the love I would normally be giving to him or looking for from him. I get to recycle back to me. And then I change the way I view our relationship, right? As we're two brothers and sisters in Islam raising a family, right? Um, and within that, I'm still a sexual human being married to a man. So what do you do, right? And remembering my body wisdom, just sourcing my own pleasure, right? What are all the other ways? What are all the ways I can, experience pleasure? And so, does it require touch? Does it require the touch of another human being? And if it did, are there ways to do that that are not necessarily sexual, but still pleasurable, right? So I literally experience pleasure and possibility as a woman of faith. And so what that looked like is, there are some exercises that I recommend in the book, right, for you to explore. And also, you can get regular massages, right? So that's a way to get touch from another human being and get the compression that your body requires. And it's not sexual, but it's pleasurable, right? And then, when you eat, you can stop and actually be grateful for every single mouthful. And as it goes into your mouth, you can allow like each part of your tongue, the different sets of taste buds to really savor what it is that you're eating. You just don't eat because you're hungry. In fact, if you're hungry, that you've waited way too long. But you eat instead because your body requires more energy, and in meeting that requirement, you find pleasure.
No, I like that. So you're explaining the difference also between sexual or sexuality and pleasure, that you can also
Yes.
experience pleasure,
Yeah.
enjoy pleasure without necessarily being sexual. Is that correct? No, lovely. So just for the benefit of people who are joining, I'm speaking to Cordelia Gaffar, who's a best-selling author, a podcaster. She also has got a show called Free to Be Show Host. She's the author of 8 books. One of the books is called Detach Love, where she's explaining the last couple of chapters of that particular book, where she outlines the difference between sexual pleasure or sex or intimacy, or in a sexual sense, and a pleasure, and how you can experience pleasure without necessarily being sexual. And that
Yes.
book, I believe, is available on Amazon on your website. Yes, that book is available on Amazon. So you can obviously type in Cordelia Gaffar, Cordelia and obviously you can obviously link to her Instagram, which obviously got all of the links of her books and the workshops that she's doing. One of the I'm not sure if it's a workshop or a program that you've developed that I wanted to touch on, is the 29 days 29
Mm-hmm.
did the 29 days to leap into intimacy. Do you mind explaining a little bit about that? Because
Yeah.
it's quite
Yeah.
interesting when I was looking at
I
your
just
website
thought
on
about
that.
it because,
For that
this year is leap year. And right. And so like
yes, that's what I'm
Ramadan
thinking of.
is
Yeah.
like 29 to 30 days, and it takes us about that long to really change our habits. And I was like, well, what if you did the same thing with your intimacy? And like, how would you build upon that over a period of 29 days? So I literally created a calendar. And it's this is a DIY. You just can go read about it, click on it, and get it. It's literally for $1 a day. You get to experiment with different ways to increase your inner intimacy. Now, each day has a theme, right? So on Saturdays, for example, it has partner talk. But the other 6 days you can see, are very focused on inward intimacy. Because in order to be intimate with someone else, you have to be really, really, really good at it and do a lot of experiments with yourself. And you have to want to do that. And so on Saturday with partner talk, it's literally that. Experiment with, speaking differently with your partner. If you're a woman, I find this a lot with Black women in particular, and you like to tell your man what to do, not in the bedroom, but like if he wants to cook for you, right? And you're like, oh babe, could you just wipe that sauce off the side there? Oh, you know what? Like, don't cut the chicken like that. This allows you to just experiment with, oh wow, you're cooking for me. Thank you, hon. And go sit down and receive.
Mm.
Yeah. So
So is it giving that advice in terms of how to better communicate
it
that
doesn't really
effectively with
drill
one's
down that
partner?
much. Like I said, it is literally like a series of experiments for you to try. you know, every day. And then you
So
get to record your progression, right? So there's a journal with it, and different ways to capture. Yeah.
right. And is that, I think you did mention it, but I just wanted to make it clear, is that program as well as your books, are they just for women who are in relationships, or can also women who are, like single, can they also benefit
Yeah.
from the
Anyone
books
can
and the
benefit. You
workshops?
don't have to be married, you know.
Anyone.
Actually, I went to a wedding, and there were some young ladies there who were not married yet, and they bought my book, you know, because they want to be ready. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is another, yeah. And this is another thing again, just because this is something that I'm sure people will be wondering, um, when would you advise someone maybe to, or who's your
My,
target audience actually first
my target
for
audience.
your
Oh, for my books,
books?
I would say my focus is always going to be on women of faith, right? And because I'm a Muslim, I express myself in that way.
Yeah.
However, quite often, the people who actually show
Yeah.
up at my retreats and those kind of things are Christian. so, um, so I would say women of faith who are very successful. They tend to be divorced or just advanced in age and single. Advanced in age, like 40s. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And I know because we spoke about this previously on a separate case, but again, just for the benefit of people here, what are the particular needs of women of faith in particular, do you think that are going to benefit more from your work than maybe what's in other, like maybe mainstream intimacy educators and things
Yeah,
like that? Do you
yeah.
mind
I will
expanding
have
a
to
little bit
say I
on
wouldn't
that?
do the dirty work for you because the way that they explain some things, like, yeah, we wouldn't go there. We wouldn't go to those places. So I've basically taken some very raw and explicit material, um, practiced it for myself, digest it for myself, and then I guess, configured it so that it's palatable, right, for a woman of faith to listen to. So I called that the four mind alignment, and so what I say is I would say it takes the shame and the judgment out, right? It takes the shame out because it's me. I can talk to you. We can have this conversation, right? And it takes the judgment out because nobody's going to see you go into that, you know, sex expo. No one's going to see you go into the Tantra Fest. I did that for you. Um, and, uh, and then we can talk about it, as women of faith. And so, for example, a lot of times people, they don't know their genitalia, right? So, and they don't even like to use the word. Like some women, they don't even use the word sex, right? And if I use the word sex, they go running the opposite direction. So, I use words like lotus verse, right? Instead of saying yoni or vagina or anything like that. And also, it's accurate, right? Going back to the physiology of birth. So, your I would say it's like a flower, it's like a lotus, right? And so each petal, you know it it gets engorged and full of juices that sometimes women don't understand. It's like, what is that? Why am I so juicy, and what is that coming out? Am I peeing myself? And it's like, no, that's the yumminess. And what is that? What does that mean when it's white and creamy? That means that you really, really enjoyed that. So there's different levels and flavors of discharge, that we don't even know what it is, because we think it's okay for men to have, whatever color um, semen or cum or whatever you want to call it. But for us, we do too. We women ejaculate, and a lot of women don't know that. They feel strange about it. And so understanding your lotus, and then thinking that, oh, I'm older, so I won't be able to do it as much, or I'm not going to be as juicy. Absolutely untrue. The older you get, the better it should get. And the juicier you should be, because you would have, you get to know and understand your lotus birth and know what actually engorges her. And it may not always be local. Sometimes it's like a nice touch on your cheek, and there's a new expression. And so, yeah, I like to create really intimate spaces for that. So I really prefer to do it in retreat, because sometimes workshops, it's kind of like you feel like you're going to go and get fixed, but what I really share is embodiment, and that's not something that happens in a couple of hours. Yeah.
Thank you. Something actually I want to put to you, because I know this is something that I've heard many times from men, and I'm sure men will be wondering. How is it possible that a woman who is in her 30s, in her 40s, who's been in a relationship for X amount of years, has probably obviously had children, how is it that such a woman finds it difficult to talk about sex or doesn't understand her body? A lot of men will find that quite strange. Can you explain whether that is the case and how that came to be, that yes, it's possible for a woman to have obviously had intimate relations for several years, but still struggle to speak about, sex and
Yeah,
intimacy or
yeah.
genitalia and maybe not understand her body?
So what I would say to a man is, like, there's probably something that happened in your childhood that you really, really remember, right? Like you were just scolded for, like, don't climb up that tree. And you just, like, now there's something in you, like you see trees and you're just like, what trees? It's like you just avoid it like the plague. And so it's kind of like that, right? So women of faith, especially Muslims, I come across, well, not only Muslims, actually, it's a lot of Christians too. But anyway, from the time you're like, you can hear good and walk well and wear a dress, make sure that you never, ever, 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 ever think about looking at a boy twice. And if you look at him, don't ever, 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 think about touching him or letting him touch you. And like, so by the time that it's okay, it's just like, wait, the past 25 years, I was like, don't touch me, don't look at me. And now it's just like, you're my whole own spouse. And, so going into the marriage, you want to, like, have those conversations. There's a couple that I interviewed on the Free to Be show, and they wrote this book called Before I Do. And it takes you through like 150 questions. And there's a section there talking about sex, right? So like, or intimacy. And like you ask these different questions. And this is, the instructions on how to use the book is you first you answer those 150 questions for yourself. Then you get together and you have that conversation, right? So I know this is a long answer, but you understand the logical flow. So when you're raised in a way where you are going to avoid something by the plague, like the plague, you want to go into your marriage having that conversation. If you never had that conversation, and now you've got 2 kids and you've been married for 10 or 15 years and you're wondering why she doesn't want to have sex anymore, maybe this is your time to be the brave one and be like, hey, hon, the kids are going to get older and we're just going to be together. So I just wanted to I want to explore something new with you. I know when we first got married, you may have been kind of shy, right? But I really want to make sure that I'm pleasing you, right? So would you be open to exploring having this conversation with me? Am I doing something wrong? Am I turning you off? How am I turning you off? So yeah.
And I very well said, very well said. And in your experience, do you find that men are quite receptive to your teaching and like trying to coach women to embrace their sexuality in their body? Because some men are, I've come across, are quite averse to, like, they have this idea that the woman is, and again, I have to be careful of the words because obviously it can be loaded, but just go with me for one moment. Like this idea the woman is innocent and pure, so she doesn't know anything, and so she's a virgin. And even if she talks about sex, then some or learns about it, she's either going to be, I don't know. A lot of men have got these warped ideas, So like, I'm just wondering, do you have any like pushback or some men who maybe like husbands, either current husbands or potential husbands who maybe don't want their wife or potential wife to kind of hear these things because they might feel that,
Hmm.
you might corrupt her,
Nope,
for lack of
I
a
don't
better
usually
term.
hear that. No,
Yeah, good.
maybe they'll tell me
Good. No,
something
that's
they won't
good.
tell you.
No,
They're
that's good
just
then.
like wondering like what are some things that I could, yeah, yeah,
No, because my
yeah,
question was going to be, how would you, or let's say hypothetically then, if you were to come across a woman is interested in,
yeah,
and I forgot to
I
mention,
do.
you do
Yeah.
one-on-one coaching, is that correct? That's on your website. Yes. Yeah. So Cordelia does also do one-on-one coaching. Anyone's interested. So yeah, like I mentioned, just say for example, you've got a woman who is either married or soon to be married or dating, what have you, but her current partner or potential partner, what have you, is not
Oh,
comfortable with her learning about intimacy. How would you navigate that with the woman? So like where she feels she's like this knowledge, this coaching service is valuable for her and her relationship, but then also she to equip her in order to kind of like help
well,
her partner.
it's only going to make his life better, you know? Um, do you want a happy marriage?
Mm,
Do you really understand what it means when we say that marriage is half your deen? Half your marriage is making sure that
yeah.
you are satisfied on an intimate level. And the intimacy, yeah, it is praying together and having that relationship with Allah, but it's mostly having sex because there's like actually a hadith about that, you know? And so if you want to make sure that your marriage lasts and that it's fruitful, then you're going to want her to know something, you know, and mostly her body, because you
Mhm,
don't want to just be doing whatever you think is best for you
mhm.
and not considering her pleasure, because that will end your marriage real quick.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. No, well said. Well said. And you mentioned the four mind. That was actually one of my questions, but you did mention the four mind alignment that you developed. Do you mind explaining a little
Yeah,
bit
like
about
I
what that
said, you know, I'll just keep it high
involves?
level because it's, we only have a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Obviously, people want more. Go to your website. I'm kind of just trying to give you the alley. Obviously, very high level, but they want more. Go to your website. Go to your obviously your courses and stuff like that. But yeah, if very high level, if you don't mind
Yeah, so if you
giving an
just think
overview
about it,
of what
like
that
right
involves,
now,
please.
people, have a lot of mental unwellness, a lot of emotional immaturity. And when you're out of alignment, those are signs that you're out of alignment, right? And we just think, oh, there's a pill for that, but there's not. This is some deep emotional stuff. So this requires you to experiment with, like I was saying before, different forms of pleasure, right? And understanding that we're proportionally more body than we are brain. So you can't intellectualize pleasure, you have to feel it, right? And you have to allow yourself to be in your body. So the four mind alignment is that. It's just a really simple process for you to slow down and smell the roses, and then a benefit is you will not be anxious, or um, you'll handle situations a lot better, because we've normalized stress. Like we think it, I think your guest last week was talking about how we are just stressed out and we think it's normal. And she's absolutely right. It's not. That we were not created to be stressed out all the time. We were created to be in bliss. We were created to be in alignment. And so you have to check in with your four minds, and three of them are in your body, right? Your lotus verse is the first one. Your stomach, we already recognize, is, for our immunity. Our heart is for our emotions. And then all of that informs your actual brain. So that's what that is.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just tagging your want to put this pin so people can check out your work. Sorry, and I was listening. I know they do say men don't aren't very good at multitasking. I must not the best, but I was trying. I was listening. Sorry, you mentioned about the yoni verse. Is the yoni verse referring to the women's
No, the
genitalia
lotus
or
verse is,
act of
yeah, it is
intercourse?
the genitalia, but
A
for
lotus
people
verse.
that may be more familiar with chakras, it would be like your sacral and root chakra together. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, lovely. And actually, another question I did have. So obviously, you've mentioned you've studied various ancient traditions from Tantra, Kundalini, within Islamic tradition as well. So just wondering, out of the different ancient practices that you've studied, which of, obviously I'm sure there's many, but which one would you say be most beneficial to modern
Mm.
day women who are struggling with intimacy
Yeah,
that you
I
could
I would say,
share?
just like things that I've found in my research, the Islamic tradition really like just lands everything in its most balanced alignment. There's nothing that seems hard to implement. I mean, there's breath work and tantra, and there's also breath work and Islamic medicine, right? So I studied with the School of Healing Arts, and so, but the breath work is just, it's not too much outside of what you normally would do, like if you went to Pilates class, you know what I mean? Um, and so I would say that's the one, but you've already kind of made that, more consumable by non-Muslims as well. So in your books.
Again, I'm just thinking because not everyone has read my books or even watched some of my IG Live. So just for the benefit of people obviously who are listening, what is the Islamic approach to intimacy and sexuality that you've come across, especially in relation to women? Because many people, I think even Muslims themselves have been raised to believe that, intimacy is just for man's gratification and things like that. So do you mind just outlining what, from your research and experience, what the
Yes.
Islamic approach is towards
Yes.
intimacy, especially in relation
So,
to women?
Allah created our bodies and they're very innervated. There's a lot of sensation that can be experienced. And so, uh, exploring yourself and exploring with your partner, with your husband, your body uh, is it's meant to be play, you know. So always playing and finding different ways to play. I always, for me, it's kind of like I see it as a food thing, like you play with food. You can even choose to eat certain foods to get the skin to taste a certain way. You can change your diet, and then that evokes the smell as well, right? So we think that, even though we'll say things like "you are what you eat," but then we don't realize you are what you eat. So when you smell strange, it's because you're probably eating something that's not good for your body, which will not give you sexual stamina, and which will not want it, maybe even will repel your partner, right? So part of the exploration and part of the play, I see that a lot in the Islamic tradition. See, let your spouse be the coolness of your eye, right? So like, look good for him. I mean, look good for her. Look good for her. I'm going to say that because, men, they get to a point in life and they're just like, I got her. She's going to love me forever. And it's like,
She's gonna love me for me.
she might want to be like, remember when we first got married and you wore that, and you don't wear that anymore and you don't even try. Yeah, don't do that. Always try to surprise her, and always try and encourage her, intellectually stimulate her. Don't assume that you don't have to have conversations and you don't have to grow anymore. Oh my God, so many women I work with, actually most of the women I work with are more like engineers and doctors and stuff, but I'm telling you, there's nothing more attractive than a man who can hold an intellectually stimulating conversation, especially if you're with a very intelligent woman. And not saying that, but actually, I'm going to just say it. That's the main thing you want to focus on. Keep growing, keep learning, be interesting for her, you know, be sexy for her, find out what sexy is to her. And so that will keep her petals from falling off, right? I say, I'm just making a pun here because, you know, as they refer to a woman drying out, she only dries out if her man's no longer interesting, right? So multi-orgasmic aging is a thing. She has to have scenery. So
So are you saying that women are not interested in men's video game collection or their sports teams?
there might
I'm
be
being
some.
facetious, don't
There,
mind me.
there could be one or two. I know.
And from your experience, do you find that a lot of, like maybe for the men that you worked with, the women that you worked with, that do you find that a lot of men take not necessarily take advantage, but that they assume that they don't have to work anymore to impress that their significant other? Is that something that's quite common? And if so, why do you think that is? Why is it that men maybe kind of like seem to think that because they've got their misses that they don't need to continue to stimulate her, whether it's
Well, I mean,
intellectually, like you mentioned, or
let's just be
otherwise?
honest, just like everything else, right? It's societal pressure. Like you see it everywhere. It's like she's the one that needs the Botox. She's the one that needs to get the waistline tucked. She's the one, right? But does he really have to do anything? Only if he can't get it up. That's when it matters, you know? And it's like, no, it all matters all the time.
Yeah. And is that actually vocalized? It's a good point you mentioned. But it's actually vocalized from the women who are complaining about, you know, maybe the lack of intimacy, not only sexual intimacy from their partners. Are those women who are frustrated with their men, are they actually vocalizing their frustrations? Because from the men, yeah, that's how it's come out. Because a lot of men who will say that, as far as they're concerned, the only thing that their woman wants from them is financial sustenance and also being able to get it up in order to procreate. And as long as she's got that, he's done his job. So whether he's, you know, put on an extra £50, wears whatever he wears, doesn't wear perfume anymore, doesn't offer the stimulating conversations that you said that she might be interested in. The main thing she wants is financial provision and also being able to for him being able to procreate. So because a lot of men maybe that's the message that they've received and the other half is not telling them otherwise, how can we then, or is part of your work trying to help women empower to speak to their other half that know that this is what they want? Because again, I think men are not mind readers. So one of the issues I'm finding is that they're hearing women say one thing, but the woman that they're with is not saying that she needs this and that. So
Yeah,
as far as he's
you
concerned,
know,
he doesn't need to make an
communication
effort.
is such an important thing. And so, you know, just that's why having that alignment within matters, right? Because once you're moving that Kundalini energy, like your heart is reawakened, your juices are re-enlivened, and you're just like, wait, I actually have desires. Wait, I need to say something, you know? And so people don't realize how important it is.
Yeah.
Like they think when they have marital problems, like they need to go outside. And I love it. I see comments on your post all the time. Go to therapy. You know what? We went to a Muslim therapist twice. Then we went to a non-Muslim therapist. And you know,
Mm.
you cannot do anything if you're not doing the inner work, right? It's just like the doctor will give you medicine, but if you don't take it, you're still going to stay sick and the infection's going to stay within you. So the first thing to do is to go within. What is it that nurtures me? What is it that I want from him? What is it that he can give to me, knowing him, right? And we're not encouraged to do that survey at any time. So, you know, that's how my work began, is with making sure that women created sustainable practices of self-nurturing. And so the ultimate self-nurturing is your sexuality, because it's just the other side of your spirituality. It's only sexual because you have a body. Without a body, then it's spiritual. You know what I mean? So taking the shame away, just understanding you're still dealing with the soul. But when we're talking about two souls connecting in divine union and intercourse, the intercourses of your souls, right, intertwining, then that requires conversation. And so to stir up that energy within, you know, that's the result. So like I hear you say, and a lot of people say this, you do women's empowerment. I don't. What I do is I would say I redirect women back to the wise woman within them, right? Because the wisdom is in your body, but I can't tell you what the wisdom is for your body. You have to awaken that, and these are the practices to do that, you see.
Understood. Thanks for the correction. So you guide women back to the wise woman that's inside them.
I
And that's
believe so,
different from
you know,
empowerment.
because I feel like empowerment is more about gaining control of something, or, you know, receptors, right? Like the way that medicine works, because we have the receptors for the medicine within us. If you want to be nurtured, you have to know what your nurturing receptors are within. No one can tell you that.
Very well said. Very well said. Again, just for the benefit of people who have joined the last few minutes, I'm speaking to Cordelia Gaffar, who is a best-selling author, a podcast host, and she's got a show called Let It Be Show. Oh, Let There Be. Sorry. The Free to Be Show. The Free to Be Show. It's a tongue twister, this one. It's a tongue twister. The Free to Be Show. I do apologize. The Free to Be Show. She's also an author of 8 books, which obviously you can check all of her books and her workshops and her retreat, which I'm going to ask her a little bit about on her website. And also I've tagged her so you can check out her Instagram, where in her bio she's got all of the links, not only to her books, not only to her books, but her YouTube channel and some upcoming like events and workshops that she's doing. And she's also been a recipient of multiple awards, both in the UK as well as in the US where she resides. You did mention that you offer some retreats. Is that something that you've done in the past? Is there any, are you planning to do any more retreats in the future? And if so, do you mind give us an overview of those retreats and who is it targeted at and what it's all about?
So I've done retreats in the past. Like I took an intimate group of women to Hawaii, and we were there in the jungle for 5 days. And then, you know, we basically on my retreats I take you through an elemental journey, and which is why I chose Hawaii in that case, you know, for fire, earth, air, and water. And then I do personalized retreats. So I've taken a woman to India with me, and yeah, different form of fire in that case. Amazing. Right? We're talking about food. And so upcoming this summer, I'm going to Greece, you know, another ancient place where we get to, I guess this is going to, the fire is going to be within also, right, in this case, but we'll, you know, have an elemental journey. And this one is targeted for women of faith. So it's mostly right now Christian women who have signed up. And but like I said, it doesn't really matter. The main thing that matters is, again, they tend to be engineers and doctors, and just in their mid 40s and to a point in life where they want their inner world to be deeper and fuller. And, you know, they have all the outward success and all the things, but it's just magnetizing that last piece that will make their lives more pleasurable, you know? So I guess in this case, they're all single, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just wanted to pick on that. So you mentioned that a number of the women that have signed up for your retreat are engineers, doctors, so these high-performing professionals, educated. So why is it that women of this socioeconomic class are struggling with intimacy? Because I'm especially like with community. Is it finding a partner? Is it communicating their desires with their partner? What are some of the challenges that you're finding with this group in particular? That, like I said, because on paper
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming they'll tick all of the boxes. So why is it then they're struggling with this
Yeah, well, for
intimacy
the most
realm? Do you
part,
mind
it
touching
is a
on that?
lot of what we've been talking about already, right? So they've been raised, keep your head in the books, right? They got 5 degrees. Think about that part. How'd they get 5 degrees? And that's a lot of schooling, right? So they were already in advanced age coming out of school, and focusing on what they should focus on, right? And so, and think about the type of industries they're in, male dominated industries. So she has to be in a certain energy, a very dominant energy, because she's a woman, she's a brown woman, and there's a lot that she's up against, right? So she doesn't have a place to soften. She doesn't even know how to practice being soft, right? And then, like, the things that she's used to presenting on require PowerPoints, right? Or surgery in some cases, right? So how do you say this in the bedroom? Because am I even supposed to talk about this? It goes back to that, it's like, should I be talking about this? And well, he's okay enough, right? um, so just knowing that, just like, you have to state your case confidently at work, just be vulnerable and honest, right? It's not exactly the other side of the hand, is it, though, right? So, like, just be vulnerable and honest. Like, how do you do that? Like, first of all, you got to go and find the switch to turn off the dominant person, right? And so there's like this complete abyss between who she is to the world and who she is inside her world she never got to develop, you know? Um, so a lot of times I would say it's that.
Right. And with your retreats and your coaching, are you like helping women to develop or to nurture that softer side, especially women who have coming from that, like you mentioned, male-dominated industry? They've been studying for X amount of years, maybe had limited interpersonal relationships. So is your coaching involved in helping them? Because I'm assuming every woman has got that soft side in them. It's just
Yeah,
maybe how to get it out. Is that correct?
yeah, and
Is
men
that the
have the
case?
soft side
Or do you
too.
teach them how to be soft and vulnerable? Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And then, yeah, so I'm just saying, is it the coaching or is it more the retreat that you, for a woman who is in that situation, that you best advise if they wanted to develop that soft and vulnerable side? Is it ideally that they have the one-to-one coaching or go
Yeah, my
for a retreat
coaching
or maybe both?
includes the retreat. So if we work together, you're going to go on a retreat, because the
Okay.
embodiment portion really is important, and we have to be in person together. We have to be in each other's energy. A lot of, actually, more recently, most of my clients are local. So, like, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, so that we meet in person usually one of the sessions a month. But then there is a distinction, right? We know the work that's going to happen on the retreat because we've been preparing for that, right? And I've also worked with women the other way around, where we started out, she came to the retreat, and then we built out from there. So it just depends on what type of learner you are. If you're like, I need to see and do and feel, go to the retreat first, and then we can work together afterwards. But if you're more like let me just tiptoe, then you might want to coach first and then, go to an upcoming retreat. So right now I have Greece in July and Guatemala next year.
Oh, well, Guatemala as well. Wow, so all over. It's Greece, Guatemala, even India, and Hawaii, either upcoming or you've had perhaps. Any plans offering any doing any retreats in the UK, or would you, or for people that are in the UK? I know you said you got an award from London. How would that, for example, for someone in the UK who maybe can't afford to go to the States, or maybe can't meet your retreat in Greece? what would you advise such women to if they
Yeah, I
wanted to
I'm open to
take up your
creating
services?
a a retreat in the UK. I think I've done preliminary conversations with people. We were looking at October dates at one point, but nothing solidified. Yeah.
Yeah, someone just said, yes, please come to London.
Okay.
So you've already got another one person signed up.
Well, and another thing I can say is there's actually a
Oh, that's good.
form because I do, like, I would say if you want to do the retreat first, it would be application, right? So I think at the bottom of my link tree, if
Yeah.
in my bio, it's like, uh, what is it, pleasure and possibility retreat. So it's actually an application.
And that's all in your bio. So people can, if they just
Mm-hmm.
need to click your
Come
IG bio,
to
and
Africa.
they'll find out more information. Okay.
Yeah.
Got yeah, that was going to be my next one. Have you any plans to visit the
So
motherland,
the way I
go
like
for
to do my
retreats in
retreats is
Africa?
that I go to the place first and then I bring people there. So, I'd have to go and visit
Right.
Africa if you'd give me some suggestions. I tell you the countries I'm interested in, like personally, I want to go to Senegal, and Kenya and Tanzania. And then I have a friend in South Africa. So those are the places I'm interested in. So if you're in any of those countries, those are on the top of my list. But if there's other countries, I'm open. Yeah.
Oh, right. Ayo Bumi, who I interviewed last week, she had a retreat in Kenya. Maybe you should reach out because I've never been Kenya. So I mean Senegal, sorry. So I don't know much. But yeah, maybe you can connect with her, find out more about the country, and visit before hosting a retreat. And Kenya, I have a couple of people that I know of Kenya, but maybe that's a conversation offline. But yeah, it's good that you're planning to hold some retreats and visit Africa because I think a lot of people would be definitely interested in the services that you're offering. Um, so I wanted to touch on just before we wrap up about the multi-orgasmic agent. Playing a little bit of devil's advocate, what if someone were to say that women, or someone would think that women aren't able to climax past the age of like 40, 45? Is there any truth in that? And if not, how can a woman who's maybe struggled to orgasm throughout her 20s and 30s, how can she then become this multi-orgasmic woman
You
in her
actually,
40s and
the
50s and
older you
upwards?
get, the the more free you are in your body and your mind, and that's really what opens the door for more orgasms, right? Um,
Sorry, can you say that again? Just I want people
the
to.
older you
That's a good.
get,
Can
the
you mind
more free
say
you
that
are
again?
in your
Sorry.
body and the more free you are in your mind. So that's where the possibility of having multiple orgasms comes from. It's not the physiology of the woman's body, it's the freeness of the soul of the woman. Yeah. So it's getting your soul free.
So the so the older so it doesn't so orgasms aren't just for women in their 20s. Good. I just wanted to make that clear because I know there's some people who feel that maybe because they've struggled with experiencing orgasm at in some stage of their life that they won't be able to be orgasmic later on. And also part of your work. And so, what is you use the word multi-orgasmic agent? So there's obviously three words. What can we understand orgasmic? Are you
Mm-hmm.
saying that women can have multiple orgasms?
All
And
right.
what is the
So
aging
I actually
component
came
of
up with
that?
that. That's a
If you could
series
break
I
that
did
down,
in
please.
December. I did 13 days of multi-orgasmic aging, right? Because it was the last 13 days of the year. And
Yeah.
so I turned 51 last year. And I often get a lot of comments like, you know, have you ever been married? Do you have any kids? Like for people that don't know me. And I'm just like, oh no, I did all of that. I had like a whole life, I've married for 20 years, had a million kids. So I always get this comment, how do you look so young? And like, this isn't just makeup. You haven't met me in person, but like my energy, my physique, like everything it hasn't moved since I was 29. And so multi-orgasmic aging, I like to play with words, right? It is all the things that I teach women in my retreats, right? The embodiment practices that I share that can stop your aging process, right? And side benefits, you get to have multiple orgasms, and also because I've been having multiple orgasms my entire sexual life, I age a lot slower. So it's all of those things. Yeah, because
Wow.
I got a question about like,
Wow. Okay, I'm sure.
when you got a divorce, you started being multi-orgasmic. I'm like, no, I have 6 kids. I've been multi-orgasmic. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I'm sure a lot of fellas will be signing up their missus to attend your courses now, and women themselves. So again, so if you want to be multi-orgasmic, and this for the woman, or if you want your other half to help her be multi-orgasmic, then Cordelia. So that 30-day course, do you still
Oh,
run that, or was that just a
that
one-off
is
for
something
last December?
that's embedded in my one-on-one coaching, but that also is a course that I would
Okay.
make available online later on in March.
So if people want to be multi-orgasmic, you still offer that by the one-on-one coaching. So again, just making that clear because I know I had a number of messages about that. That was something that's why I wanted to answer towards the end. I wanted to talk about other stuff because that was yeah, I got a few messages from DMs saying, okay, how do I make my missus be multi-orgasmic? Or women asking how do I become multi-orgasmic? So I've saved that to the end, but it's still available. The 13-day course, which Cordelia did offer last December, like she mentioned, will be available, and she did to help women become multi-orgasmic. And she also does one-to-one coaching where she coaches and helps women become multi-orgasmic. And as you said, multi-orgasmic helps you stay
Yes,
younger,
it
would you
stops
say,
the
or
aging
reduce
process.
aging process? Yeah, it's great, lovely. Yeah, that's a high note I want to kind of end on. This is actually the last point. I saw one of your taglines. You had, I think it was to normalize great sex, something along those lines for women of faith. What did you mean by that? To normalize? Is
Yes.
there a difference between sex and great sex? Because you specifically used the word normalize great sex for women.
Well, what
Yeah,
I come across is
what did you mean
women
by that?
usually think it's like, well, we had sex or we'll have sex if he wants, but they don't think of it as this
Yeah,
can be a great experience for me too, right? It's not like giving a dog a bone. It's like we get to play together. Oh my gosh. Let's like role play. Let's, do fun stuff. Let's, like try with different types of fruit, or meat. Just like let's try stuff.
amazing. Wow. So not all sex is great sex. There's a difference
Hmm.
between, and women
Yeah.
can experience great sex for themselves. Is that correct? Good. No good. Because again, I just want to make that clear because some people have been unfortunately raised to believe that sex is just for men, and they're there just to facilitate their male partner's desires. So just wanted to make sure that it's understood what you mean by the great sex. It's not just great sex for the man; it's for the woman herself.
Yeah.
So she can be, like you mentioned, multi-orgasmic
Yeah.
and delay the aging process. Now, just before we head off, do you mind? Is there any other I know you mentioned you're working on a book. If you wanted to share that or any retreats or workshops or events that you've got upcoming that you want to
Yeah.
plug and let people know, and
I
obviously where
am
they can
working
find
on a
you.
book that you're going to publish. Which is a conversation.
That's the business one. That's the salesman. I think that's the first I heard about that. That's the saleswoman in you. I'm going to publish.
Yeah, another
Tell you
conversation
because
for
I think that.
offline, but that will be rolled out at my retreat in Guatemala, May of 25. So we've got our work cut out for us. Um, and yeah, so I would say right now for this year, I like to keep my retreats really small. So I'm pretty much at capacity for Greece. There's like maybe one or two spots left, depending on who you are, right? So that's why the application is super important. And so if you go, I think it's the link is all the way at the bottom. If you want to know about that, it has some questions there. We do things out in nature. I love to hike. So we'll be walking for miles and up hills and, you know, do stuff in water. So I ask questions like that to, you know, understand your physical limitations or, you know, to help you to get into shape for, you know, if you really, really want to go, because it all matters. You want to have physical stamina, mental and emotional stamina, right? It's not easy to be vulnerable. And so there's vulnerability and there's vulnerability, right? So there's like, I can't make it up this mountain, you know, please help me, right? And sisterhood. And then there's, you know, honey, I don't know how to tell you, I've been having all these really lewd, right, thoughts about you and the things that we should do together, but I don't want to change your opinion of me. We've been married for 15 years and I'd like to, you know, explore like something different, whips and chains, or, you know, can I tie you up? You know what I mean? And so it, when you get outside your comfort zone and you do stuff in community and you've got your sisters like, you got this, you can totally do this. And, you know, for 9 days and you're outside, you know, you're away from everything that you know, that changes you. You know, if you want to change your inner world. And I chose 9 days because the number 9 is the ending of a cycle. So something I repeat in my coaching is to, I give up the ways of being that created this situation that I hate. And I make space to receive ways of being that will allow me to have everything I love, you know? So.
Wow, very well said. So, and sorry, that retreat is next year, May 25th. And sorry, when is you mentioned the one in
That's
Greece?
July of
Is it
24.
the one
It's
is that in
July
July this
12th
year?
through 20. Yeah, July 12th through
I was
25th.
going for this year. And are there still some slots available, especially for
Yeah.
anyone that's in Europe that maybe
Yes, 2.
might want to attend? And how can they find out more?
There's 2 links I would say. You can apply, or you can also, it says Let's Connect, and you can get information from me. I believe, I don't know that the Greece page is still live on my website. Otherwise, I would say go to the website and go to experiences. But I'm not sure if it's still live, you know, because I usually, like I said, I like it by application and I kind of pick it through my people that I'm already working with and stuff like that. But I'll open it up every once in a while. Yeah.
Okay, but just for the benefit of people listening, are you happy to take any DMs? I'll just direct people to your page, message
Oh
you,
yeah,
like if
I
they want
love
to find
DMs.
out more
Those are real
information
fun.
and stuff like that. Is that
I'm always
okay?
open to that.
Okay, lovely. No, I just wanted to say, because again, obviously I'll save this and upload it, but again, just for the benefit of probably anyone listening now or near the future, hopefully before July, I know they know where to be directed. So no, that's good. And just the last thing, you mentioned you're working on a book. Do you want to touch on that, or is that still in
I would
progress?
say
Like,
that book is
that's the one
really,
that
really
wraps
in
on the
progress.
construction.
There's so many things that,
Sure.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
going to touch on there. I'm just going to go a lot deeper. That's all I can say.
But in the meantime, you've got the 8 books, so people can obviously, like you mentioned, access that from your website and Amazon. So until your next one comes up, obviously they've got more than enough to keep them occupied. And just the last thing, you're free. I keep messing this. The free to be. What is it? This is a weird. I'm not gonna lie. It's a weird.
Show.
The free to be. Sorry, the free to be show. Where can people find out about that and like watch? Is that just on? Is that audio? Is that on YouTube?
So
How
the
can
Free to
people
Be
kind of
show
find
is
out
on
more
my
about the
YouTube
free to
channel.
be
My
show?
YouTube channel is just my name. I keep life simple. Like Google search me. I think it's my LinkedIn, then my YouTube, then my podcast. And but any streaming channel, so it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcast, it's like everywhere. Yeah.
Wow, lovely. So thank you. Is there anything more? I'm just conscious of time. Is there anything more that you want to plug
I
before
really,
we bring it to a close?
yeah,
You're doing a lot. I didn't
pretty
realize how much you're doing. You're doing a
well.
lot, which is good.
This is what it looks like when you're multi-orgasmic, right? Is
Mashallah,
that
doing a
I
lot.
create a lot.
Yes.
Did you see that question about right?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. So someone asked, do you mind entertaining this question? So someone has asked, I have friends who have undergone female genital mutilation and they are experiencing
Are
multi-orgasmic.
not?
How is that possible? So the person asked, no, no, so the person said, I have friends who have undergone FGM and they are experiencing multi-orgasmic.
Oh,
How
no,
is that
because,
possible?
well, like I said, many things, right? First of all, it doesn't require, like, there physiologically, a woman can have orgasms inside the canal, right? Um, so it doesn't necessarily require the full clitoris to still be intact, and the labia. Um, and then there's the other thing that people don't realize: a woman's body is heavily innervated. So there's a lot of other erogenous zones that obviously they found and they know their bodies very well and have explored. So that's, when I talk about pleasure and possibility, you got a whole body. Skin is a really big organ. And I'm always surprised. I'm like, wow, there's another one. I didn't even know that. And I'm just saying that, you have that opportunity to explore yourself all the time. So right now, obviously, I've been divorced for 4 years, so most of my exploration is alone. And so, and I still can find erogenous zones. You know what I mean? So it's so important that a woman plays around and knows her body. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Very well said. Yeah, I think that's one of the myths that, because I sometimes receive some of these questions where people either, again, I'm not endorsing or encouraging female genital cutting or mutilation, but it's important that people do realize that even if someone who has undergone any form of female genital cutting or mutilation, a woman can still experience pleasurable sex and orgasm. And like Cordelia mentioned, even if the external clitoris has been removed and the labia as well, there are other forms of the other erogenous zones, whether it's
And
inside
outside,
the
yeah.
vaginal canal or even outside of the genitalia where women and outside. Yeah, so it's not just the genitalia. I know that a lot of people are concentrate, especially in the West, on the clitoris, especially the external clitoris. But it's important for women who have experienced any form of female genital cutting, explore their body, know their body, and know that there are other routes to climax and orgasm.
You,
So people
I,
don't lose hope.
I
So yeah,
also,
thank you for that question.
I'm
But
not sure
yeah, it
about
is
this stuff,
possible
but
for
like,
women
I
to.
don't know how much of the
Yeah,
internal clitoris is taken away when they do that.
none at all. So that's the thing. So with even the most severest form, there's according to the World Health Organization, there's four types of FGM or FGC. The first type is the removal of
Okay.
the external clitoral glands. And then the second type involves the removal of the clitoral
Mm-hmm.
glands and part or all of the labia minora and some of the labia majora as well, so the lips. And then the third type is the most invasive type, is the infibulation, where the external clitoris is removed by the clitoral glands, the clitoral hoods, the labia minora, labia majora, and then the the hole is basically stitched, and there's only a little hole that's left for urination. Now, even if a woman has undergone the most severe type, which is type 3, the internal clitoris still remains intact. And
Yeah.
as we know, most of the clitoris sits inside of a woman's body. It's only the external clitoris that is visible to the human eye. So even if, again, I'm not endorsing at all any form of female genital cutting or anything like that, but even if a woman hasn't undergone FGM or FGC, she can experience orgasm and she can be multi-orgasmic. So just wanted to, it's important that we kind of clarify that because whilst there are a lot of people campaigning to end the practice, which I understand, it's important that we don't say mistruths and say that if a woman hasn't got an external clitoris, she can't enjoy sex or she can't be orgasmic, because that's not true. So yeah, just ending on that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Cordelia, Fabulous 51. Um, Brilliant gems that you've dropped. Really pleased to obviously hear the work that you're doing. A best-selling author, not only a multi-orgasmic coach, but a multiple book writer with 8 books. And obviously you've got another book coming, so that's going to be published soon. You've got the retreat in July. So again, if anyone's interested in visiting the retreat, which is going to be in Europe, in Greece,
12th
in July,
through 21st.
July the 12th, did you say? 12th, July the 12th to the 21st. Access, well, it's going to be hopefully available on her website, but follow Cordelia for more. And again, I guess she's going to have another retreat for women only in Guatemala next year. So again, just keep her, obviously keep up to date by visiting her page or following her page. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And obviously we'll be speaking again soon, obviously offline. But yeah, just wanted to have this IG Lab and people can benefit from your work and hear about the fabulous work that you're doing. So I thank you everyone for attending. I'm just going to save this. I'm going to add you, if that's all right, Cordelia, so maybe you can go on your page, but because I made a mistake last week. But yeah, we end it there. Assalamu alaikum.